Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ladies, welcome to another episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my partner Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So, Anthony, how you doing today? We've had a very hectic day, haven't we?
I know, man. Like,
we got up. We were at the dojo at 9 a.m. to make some judo videos.
Yeah,
we did a little bit of open mat, which we didn't really get to participate in because we were hosting a 3-club scrimmage with Sawtell Judo and Goltz Judo that you and me had to set up for the most part.
Yeah,
I refed the entire time. You did the scoreboard.
I did a scoreboard and a stream.
And the stream, yes. We did a scoreboard and a stream. I did a little bit of streaming, okay?
Yeah, so the streaming was tiring because I spent the whole, believe it or not, I spent the whole last week not training judo so I can get home after work, after teaching, after work to set up the stream because we moved the stream from Twitch because not a lot of people
from our Twitch channel to the Hollywood Judo YouTube channel. Yeah,
we got a lot more views, and also it's just easier to do it on YouTube after I set it up. I just think the judo demographics on YouTube, not so much on Twitch. A lot of people our generation don't really watch Twitch anymore, I guess. It's all the Zoomers that watch Twitch. So that was a pain to set up. And once we got to the dojo, the internet was down.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Dang.
So I was like troubleshooting it. I was making sure it's none of the new equipment set up that I had. I got that new laptop I got from past episode when I was back in Maryland. That can support streaming 1080p 60 FPS, like because it's a newer laptop. So I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But I had to tone it down because I ended up streaming on my mobile hotspot, and I didn't show it on stream, but I had to get an ice pack from the
refrigerator
fridge to put my phone on because it gets so hot when it's hot spotting.
And then this guy got mad at me because I said, dude, if it's getting so hot, drop it down to like 720. He's like, I'm not dropping it down to 720.
Yeah, I'm not dropping it down to 720. Might as well not stream it. I might as well just record and upload, which is what I did. We're going to upload the 4K 60 version tonight. I need to do that tonight. So it's just been very hectic.
So we can watch it at the Sphere later. That's why.
Yeah, I'm actually considering. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. I'll just say I'm considering reshuffling my priorities in life a bit because one of the episodes that we're going to do is I'm finally done with that Sweet Science of Fighting training program, by the way. And I am so tired. I'm just going to leave it. Spoiler, I'm so tired. But it did lead me to question how I'm prioritizing certain things between judo, BJJ, the podcast, work, family. So, there needs to be some reshuffling around, going on around. I'll leave this discussion up for.
We're not ending the channel, okay, guys. We're still going to be here.
Yeah. I'm just reshuffling the priorities and training, but I'm going to leave this for the episode where we talk about where I review the training program. I put myself through it. I wanted to quit multiple times. Let's just say that, but I went through it. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to review it and make an episode out of it.
Yep.
I'm thinking of bringing back James for that episode. So we can have a discussion with him. So for those who haven't listened to it, that episode, I highly recommend it on strength and conditioning. If for those that have listened, let me know if you're interested in me just talking about the program by myself or whether you want me to bring back James, whether you like that idea. And if you do, whether you have any questions, strength and conditioning questions, so leave that in the comments or send it to us through Instagram or Gmail. And if there's enough questions, then we'll bring him on and ask him some of the common questions that you guys have.
All right. So today we had an interview with Matthew Parker. He's part of USA Judo's AAC unit. What's the AAC?
AAC unit? No. I don't know if it's
I'm thinking of my cop stuff right now.
Athlete Advisory Council. Yeah.
CSI,
listen, he explains what it is in the interview. Yeah. So,
all right. Let's just get an interview. Okay. So, with no further ado, let's get to the interview. Hey, everybody, we're here today interviewing Matthew Parker. We had a little interview thing, but I messed up the name and stuff. So he's from the Athletes Advisory Council in USA Judo. He's coming to the show to talk a little about that. He's also the head instructor of Monument Judo out there in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
All
Monument,
right.
Colorado. Yeah.
Awesome. I was looking it up and I was like, where is this place? Monument. I was like, that's a great name for a town. Monument.
It's pretty neat, honestly. It's just north of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So
Okay.
just on the north end. It's a smaller town, but it's nice. It's a good little area.
Fantastic. So introduce yourselves to our audience. Let us know like how you got into judo, how you got into martial arts, and just a little bit about you and your dojo.
Yeah, happy to share. Thanks. First off, thanks for having me today.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. So the way I got started in judo, actually, I was 5, and my mom needed an outlet for this little neurodivergent kid running around, ton of energy. Right, like
Mm-hmm.
that's how I got started. It was a parks and recreation program taught by, lo and behold, a former national team member for Cuba, and his name is Bert Becerra out in Garland, Texas, where I'm originally from. And I started in that program. That's where I was kind of raised in the sport. And around junior, probably I'd say around 12 years old, I started getting going international and competing on the national team for the junior team. And kind of exploded from there into, different coaches, different dojos, and different experiences. So I've been in the sport all my life, and it's been a massive part of who I am and why I'm so willing to give back to the community, honestly. So
Yeah. Well, that's great to see because you seem pretty young to be part of the USA Judo committees and stuff, just as me saying. Or you just look very good, great lotion. I know what skincare routine you use.
Soap and water. That's what it is. my wife makes fun of me. She's like, "You got one soap for everything." I don't understand.
So tell us a little about your academy. So you're at Monument Judo. You're the head instructor there. Did you start the program there? Did you just end up being the instructor there? How'd that go?
Yeah, it's kind of a fun story. I was during COVID everybody kind of got shut down and everything. I had been going to what's called the Academy of Martial Arts. That's the big brand name for this dojo. And I was doing BJJ. I was just going to their open mats on BJJ when they started reopening after COVID. My buddy Ryan Reeser was there, and he's the one that said, "Hey, come on over. They love judo. They ask tons of questions. They also have a ton of knowledge in the ground game in Newaza." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I showed up, and we kind of just we hit it off, and they asked us to start a program. And Ryan moved away. He's now in Oklahoma, and doing his thing down in Oklahoma, but. I'm the head instructor for them, and get to run the program. And I honestly love it. It's a lot of fun. I stepped away from judo after my competitive career because I needed to find my identity, like a lot of high level athletes do. Their whole identity is tied into their sport, and so I stepped away for a little while and found myself, if you will. And it was kind of just a natural progression just to teach, and people were asking questions and being engaged. And they were like, "I'm so sorry. Can I bug you?" And I'm like, "No, like I love the fact that you're asking me these questions. Like, this is cool. Like I get to share some knowledge here." And so it was really cool just to build out a program. And, on average, I'd say now I've got anywhere between 20, 25 people on the mat during practice. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for the academy. They're great people over there.
Do you have a lot of people that are cross-trained from the BJJ or the Taekwondo or whatever other programs you have there coming from judo? Okay.
Yeah, almost exclusively is the cross trainers. BJJ primarily. The kids do the Taekwondo stuff, and I have some kids that come in as well, but almost exclusively, I have a couple people that say, "Hey, you run a judo program. I want to come check it out." And so there's been a few people that have just come and done open mats kind of basically and joined us, and they continue to show up every once in a while. So
that's fantastic.
So sorry, do you get like paid full time for this, or you have another job that you actually do?
That's a great question, and I both love this. I guess it's a dichotomous answer. I love that I don't do this for a living. I don't coach for a living because it instills that I can share my my passion with it, and my, everything is a job when you're doing your work, right? And this isn't really a job for me. It's something that's a passion project that I get to do and support the academy, and they support me back, and it's kind of a cool thing. But my education and my actual career is I'm a wealth advisor. So I help people with investments, tax planning, estate planning, risk management, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Interesting. So what do you think of
what's don't ask about stocks.
So what crypto do you, so when IGF was on the AF one of the NFTs.
The NFTs. Oh gosh.
I got a blue line I could sell you. Okay. I'll give you a great deal, I promise.
All right. Let's hear it. Maybe I'll pitch it to some of my clients.
So Matthew, when you got asked to run the judo program there, what was the discussion like, and how did the agreement come about? Since I'm assuming they're a for-profit dojo, since you mentioned BJJ, Taekwondo screams for profit. So are they compensating you? Are they just waiving your membership fees? And the reason I'm gonna tell you the reason why I'm going down this path, because I want to know how you started the program. Like for profit, they can hire assistant instructors, and I'm just imagining you by yourself and like 50 kids or something like that. So I'm trying to understand how that works.
Yeah. So I set the parameters that I don't really want to teach littles. That's not my skill set. If I'm being honest with you, I don't know how to communicate with those little ones, and they're running around the mat. They're having a good time. I'm not mad at it. It's just, that's not my skill set. So, when we started talking about building out a program, that was one of the first things I asked for. I was like, hey, can we set like a parameter of like 10, 12 years old where they're a little bit more serious if they continue to come at that point. So that's one thing I asked for, and they totally respected it. They were like, yep, your strengths, so you're good. You're happy to do that. So there's that. And yes, they do compensate me. I'm part of the coaching staff, and the culture there is phenomenal. And I'm not saying that because I coach there. I've been to multiple teams. I've been to multiple dojos, and I know a lot of different cultures that are out there. Thankfully through my experiences, and I can honestly say this culture is special. There's like the head instructor, his name's Tom. He was actually a national team member for USA Taekwondo, and he became an MMA fighter. And he's formerly he was a physician assistant, and so like the guy's like very, very, very intelligent, very driven, I want to get it done. And his wife is just as phenomenal, right? And the support of the program. And
so he went from a PA to an MMA fighter to a dojo owner.
No, he went from Olympics, MMA, PA, then dojo.
Yeah.
Oh, in that order. Okay. Not the PA to. Okay.
Yeah. So he was I'm pretty sure he was doing MMA while he was doing his medical background, because he has a picture on his Facebook where it's like half of him is wearing like his medical stuff and the other half is like a judogi. So they photoshopped it onto it. So it was a cool picture, honestly. So
he's no longer practicing.
Yeah, I mean, he practiced. As a matter of fact, he fought the world championships for BJJ.
Oh, so I'm sorry, I meant as a PA.
Oh no. His full-time job is his dojo.
Oh, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. He's got a phenomenal story too, and I could talk a lot about him because he's got just such a cool story, honestly. If shout out to him, Tom Lynn is his name, and he's a great guy.
All right,
fantastic. So we brought you on because you're a member of the Athletes Advisory Council. So first tell our audience, like, what is that and what does that do in USA Judo?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, there was what's called the Ted Stevens Act, and this was passed in Congress. And basically what the act said is there's a couple different things. One, you needed to create what's called an AAC, or an athlete advisory committee. And what they do is they are the voice of the athletes. So we have different representation on this board, if you will. I'm the veterans representative specifically. And then there is an elite Shiai, an elite para, a kata, and a junior rep as well. And there are a couple other representatives there as well, like from the USOPC, and there's another one as well. But at the end of the day, we are there to be the athlete voice, and try and promote what the athletes are and their rights, and really encourage them to speak to us so that we can liaise between the administration and the actual athletes. I actually have a really cool example if you want to hear an example of how.
I was just about to ask you for an example, because as someone who works a corporate job, I'm like, this sounds very similar to certain things. So
Anthony loves examples. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So veterans, I went to a veterans tournament recently, and I was speaking to the individuals that run the Judo Veterans USA. Like that's what they call themselves. And it's kind of a mini organization under USA Judo, but it's separate and it's not. But at the end of the day, they're the ones running the veterans program here in the United States. And I came to them and I said, hey, look, I'm not trying to make changes on your side. I just want to know, what can I do for you as the athlete rep? Like, I'm the specific veterans rep. And for a while there, they were just like, we're good. And I kept having conversations with them and introducing myself to everybody and making sure that, hey, if you have anything, please come talk to me. And then there was a little bit of a breakthrough. So a few people that run the program came to me and was like, hey, can we chat for a second? I was like, yeah, no problem. They were like, I honestly, I don't feel support from USA Judo. And I said, okay, great. Tell me more about that. Like, I'm not USA Judo. Tell me more why you don't feel supported. And so we had a phenomenal conversation about that. One of the examples that we have is representation on social media. And I think that's a great example of, like, if you look at USA Judo, they've been a lot more active recently because they did hire a couple of new marketers, and they've been a little bit more top of mind to actually put stuff out there if you compare it to like a year or even 2 years ago, let alone multiple years ago, right? Well, I went to USA Judo and said, hey, athlete representation on the veteran side is not there. And we need to change that for a couple of different reasons. One, veterans are a massive part of USA Judo, right? These are the guys and gals that pay the bills to keep dojos open, right? Of course, there's kids programs, don't get me wrong, but the adult programs are really important. And most of them are, they're not going to be Olympians. They're not going to be world team members, right? Just statistically, that's not going to happen. Well, we have this really cool area of judo for veterans that is growing like crazy. And if you go to France, or if you look at Italy, or if you look at some of the other Western European and even Japan, they have these massive veterans programs. It's a big deal. And so I came to USA Judo and said, hey, we need representation here. Also, we have a unique opportunity this year for USA Judo to promote how good they are at running programs, right? They have the opportunity to showcase the world championships for veterans in Las Vegas. And this is such a massive deal. Like this can help us understand like what it's like running a program, thinking about LA 28, right? And so we start thinking like bigger and bigger. This is a huge opportunity. How often is your world championships in your own backyard, right? And so I made that point to them, and so now there's conversations about how do we take advantage of this opportunity with our veterans. So that's a small example of what we do on the AAC, but I think it's a powerful one because there was no support, they felt, and now they're feeling heard. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, and to ensure that their rights are being met as athletes do.
So it's interesting that you use that example, because I did notice USA Judo started posting a lot on social media. And actually, I think on one of our episodes like 2 years ago where we interviewed Carrie Chandler,
Yeah.
she was basically saying like, look at their social media, like they're not posting anything, they're not saying anything. Like sometimes they have a live stream for an event setup like nationals, but then they don't advertise it, so people don't know where to go click it on, and it has improved. So but I feel like there's two parts, right? So one, why does it take veterans to complain to you, to complain to USA Judo for them to hire someone when everyone has been complaining everywhere? Like I've seen it on Facebook from coaches, Facebook groups, like everyone was saying, what are you guys doing? Like why are you spending money on stuff but not advertising it?
To be clear, they didn't hire somebody because I came to them and said, hey, we need to take care of this opportunity. They had already started that initiative before I came to them. Now, as far as why it took them multiple years to make that decision to actually engage in social media in the 21st century, that's a different question. I can't speak to that specifically, but we're doing it now. And there seems to be some really good engagement behind the scenes on trying to promote USA Judo and the athletes within USA Judo.
Okay.
So,
because my second part was going to be like, I go and follow all the national governing bodies social media, and USA Judo by far is the best compared to USJF and USJA and also the minor ones out there. But there is I don't see the veterans being posted at all.
yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
That should change, right? So this conversation that I had with USA Judo and the veterans, it all happened within the past, we'll call it 60 days. Mm-hmm. And so I talked to one of the marketers for USA Judo and social media experts. There is a specific social media expert now within USA Judo, which is really cool. And I talked to them and they said, I already have ideas. I've already been thinking about this. I'm glad you came to me, talked to me about this. So what we need to do is start engaging now. So when we lead up to the World Championships, it's not this brand new, oh, hey, by the way, veterans are here, right? The World Championships right now, we have 148 individuals signed up for the World Championships right now.
Yeah.
Like that's phenomenal, right? Imagine if there was an awareness throughout all of the United States and like, hey, we have these programs out here. Like, it's not just for the young bucks; it's for us old guys too, right? Like, and we want to still be engaged. We still care. We still want to compete and have fun. And honestly, these veteran tournaments are amazing. Like, as the one I went to most recently, the team trophy basically was a case of beer, and they were like and then they go out after the tournament and they all network and they have a good time, and like it's a really cool environment. So that's why I love engaging with the veterans specifically.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Like, since you told me listen to the podcast, it's been a theme on our podcast how, I don't know about Juan, but for me, I do think like to grow judo in America, the adults is the key, not the kids. Like,
yeah, with me it's always like we talk about advertising, just engaging in social media, like do a good Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, X, whatever you got, threads. Like, it's just about getting people to know about judo. It's like the whole thing about, oh, grassroots guys, grassroots. Like, no, we need to advertise. Okay, we need to put ads out there. Like, one thing that I always wondered that why we didn't capitalize on is back when Ronda was doing well, we didn't capitalize on it. I think like every now and then when Ronda fought, you would see one USA Judo banner in the UFC octagon, and that was it.
Yeah.
And now that Kayla's doing well, USA Judo isn't paying for their thing or nothing. It's like we need to use what we got. We need to get. It's not what is it word of mouth anymore. Like we need to use these things we have.
I would love to. I know that, when we were talking before the podcast, is like one of the questions of, what are some of my ideas? This is a great segue. I just want to jump in on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is one of my ideas to bring to the board for USA Judo is to talk about actual marketing and getting our name out there. There's been discussions on like, how do we do that? And my wife was formerly, she's in law school right now, but she was formerly in the sports industry. So she's very familiar with sports sponsorships and fundraising. And so she was just talking to me about that. And I was, while we were having this conversation, in the back of my mind, I was like, why are we not doing this for USA Judo?
That's exactly what Carrie Chandler said.
Yeah, it's reality though. Like, I asked her, because this is not my area of expertise, but I asked her, I was like, can you hire somebody to do that specifically? And she was like, yeah, you could hire somebody to with $30,000 to $50,000 a year, unlimited commission, and what they bring in, right? They bring in.
I don't think you even need to, because we're considered doing that for our dojo, and I don't think you even need to give them a salary. Like, you can just give them, they work based off of commissions. Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean, there has to be some reason, like, because they've been people have been telling them this. Like, Carrie was asking Keith Bryant why they aren't doing this, and they wouldn't give her a straight answer. So.
And that's actually one of the reasons a lot of people are upset with Keith, because when he got hired, he specifically was raising, he says, I will raise funds for USA Judo, right? That was something that he talked about. And some of the people on the other side of the board that don't like Keith have really pointed out and been an opponent of, and said, well, you didn't raise your $4 million quota that you said you were going to hit. Give us.
So here's my counterpoint to that, right? But first about there has to be a reason why they're not doing this, but I don't know why they can't tell us, because it seems like a no-brainer, right? But I'm sure there's something that they know that we don't know. And the second part is, I'm not trying to defend Keith, but I'm just looking at the facts. I already told you before we recorded, I don't like USA Judo.
Yeah.
But
as our sponsorship.
When was Keith when was Keith hired? Right.
8 years ago. Yeah.
8 years ago. So I think he made that promise before COVID was a thing.
For sure.
I've been looking at the financials of USA Judo, and I think Keith did a pretty damn good job of making USA Judo stay in the black throughout COVID.
He inherited what Jose provided. Right?
That too, exactly.
And people ask me what my opinion is on Keith, and I tell them I'm open with everybody about where my stance is. Like, I think Keith is trying his best, and I think that he does care. The big complaint about him is he's not a judo guy, and we could talk about all that, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean he's perfect, right? Nobody is perfect, and there's not going to be somebody that can come in and say, "Oh, we're going to make this the best program, national governing body in the United States." Like, that's just not going to happen, right? Not especially with one of the smallest memberships in the U.S., right, across the board of all NGBs. So we got to do with what we have available to us. I think Keith has had some great ideas, and I think Keith has failed some places, right? And that's my official stance on Keith. It's a yes, and yes, Keith has done things I don't agree with, and yes, I also think he's done some cool things, like clean the books up when he inherited from Jose.
I think that was the major thing. Like, even if they replace him, like, it's normal to bring in someone to fix one problem, and you can be like, hey, thanks for what you did, but I think we need someone else now because the goals have changed, like, now that we're in the black. So that's a fair assessment, I think. But while since we're on that topic, I wanted to go back and talk about the marketing. But while we're on this topic already, what specifically do you think Keith did not do well?
So I think Keith,
because we brought up him failing to raise that money, but we already said, like, hey, like, COVID wasn't Keith's fault. I think he did pretty damn well. So,
like we said another time, it's like shit happens. You can't get
unless Keith was in Wuhan, China during that time.
He's the one that brought it over. yeah, Anthony. Oh, God damn it! I swear less.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that this is a double-edged sword when I say this. I think Keith, because he's not a judo guy, he would ask others for help, and specifically he would ask Eddie Liddy for help, from my understanding. And I think Eddie is a great resource. Eddie was actually my coach, right? And people say, "Oh, you're an Ed guy," and I'm like, "No, not really. Like, I love Ed as an individual, but I think there are things he could do better as the director of high performance and as a coach, right? I thought he could have done better. Now that I'm, myself removed and looking at it, um, uh, a decade later, really. So I think that getting much broader opinions across the spectrum and saying, okay, we all know the feedback. There's no system in place for our elite athletes going from juniors to junior international to senior ranks to senior international, right? Like there's no like official program to get these developments going. And I think he has tried. And I think that there has been some resistance to that, to that change. And so while on one hand, I think he's tried, right? Double-edged sword. On the other hand, he didn't get it completed. And that's your job as CEO, to get stuff done.
I kind of, because it would, sorry, but not to say you're being vague, because I understand like there's certain things that like we can't be clear on, but isn't it the job of the CEO to understand that what he doesn't understand and ask people for help? Like I think that's part of it. And like you said, because I've also heard some of the stuff you talked about where it wasn't just Keith. Like a lot of people try to enact change and everyone has their own agenda, which is why I personally don't agree that a judoka should be involved in should be in. I don't think they should replace Keith with a judoka, basically what I think.
I think there's a lot of validity to that perspective. I think that maybe if there was like a chief operating officer, maybe that could be a judoka because they understand the ins and outs. But from the CEO position, that is a very different position.
But then that's more money, right? To hire another
right.
C-suite. Yeah.
Right. I fully understand that and I get that. But again, going back to the fundraising, whatever. Yeah. But I think that like having a non-judoka in the CEO role has its benefits. Does it have its drawbacks? Yeah. Does it have its benefits? Yes. And I really try not to be like this person that's just neutral on everything, right? But I do look at a situation and I can comfortably say there's complexities, there's layers to things. There are things that we don't understand outside looking in, and then when we're on the inside, there are deep complexities and nuances, right? And so I think Keith in the CEO role is just one of those things.
Yeah. Would you say, because people were complaining about Jimmy Pedro, right? Some people were complaining about Jimmy Pedro being the head coach, saying like, well, he's hogging all the money, sending it all to his own athletes. Like people were making claims like that. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just saying people were making claims like that. So if you get another judoka into that role, and let's be honest, if they're going to hire judoka, it's going to be based off of how high of a rank they are and what kind of competitive history they have. They're not going to hire some yellow belt from my club or something like that, right? So then I feel like there's going to be more politics and more conflict and everything right now. And I don't know. I just think if they do replace Keith, I really hope it's not going to be another judoka, because it's just not going to turn out well, is my guess.
I think that, the example of Pedro and is there money going to him? Is there not money going to him? The power dynamic struggle between him and some of the other national training sites, right? That happened with Ed Liddy too at the Olympic Training Center.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's definitely not just. I'd use Jimmy Pedro as an example because he won the most medals, right? Brought the most medals home. But people gave him shit for it, so that's why I used them. But yeah, we're seeing that right now too with the other like I'm not going to name names, but with other clubs, people are now throwing shade because this one other club's being kind of successful. So.
Yeah, and I think that USA Judo is trying to say, okay, well, we as an organization are going to provide Eric over in North Carolina, right? It's the new national training site, right? They're trying to build that out. And my understanding is that they got some traction. I don't know how much traction, but they have some traction. And so like the idea is, oh, this is a USA Judo thing. This is not, Club XYZ thing, that's hard too, to say like, okay, we're all gonna how big the United States is, right? It's not like we're Germany or we're Italy or this smaller country that like geographically it makes sense to have a central training site, right?
Mm-hmm.
The United States is so massive and we have our own cultures within the United States. And then to say, okay, somebody from Hawaii, you need to go over to New York, to North Carolina, right? Like that's hard. That's really hard to say, okay, well, I know I'm good. I like my coach here in Hawaii. I've got phenomenal experience here, and I think I can do it from here, right? As the example.
Yeah. If I was in Hawaii, I'd go to Japan, honestly. I'd just do what a lot of the other people do. Like John Jane trains in the UK, Krista Deguchi trains in Japan. Well, like I would just go to Japan. I wouldn't even go to the States.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. The United States is struggling with development, and I think that's another area of opportunity is coaching development. And there was under Keith actually specifically, he tried to say, hey, can we relook at this coaching certification, the process? What about camps? What about the times that people come in and get certified? Like, how can we relook at how we're doing this? And I think we absolutely need to. I think we're behind the times.
I think there's because I went through it, right? They actually lowered the barrier of requirements, and for the level 1 coach, you no longer have to go to the in-person training.
Yeah.
And my level 2 from USJA transferred over to a national level coaching for USA Judo, versus before I'm like, I'm not getting USA Judo's coaching certification because they only hold a clinic once a year in my area, and every time it's around holiday time when I'm traveling, so I'm never here for it. But that changed.
I think that they're trying to. Pat Burris runs the coaching committee, I believe, and my understanding is he kind of sets the parameters around what's going on, and I think. Or when I say what's going on, to be very clear, the coaching criteria to meet level 1, level 2, so on and so forth, within USA Judo, what the realm USA Judo can hold. And I think that when Keith tried to change it, basically it was like, no, we like the system we have right now. It's good. So it's hard to say, like development needs to happen for coaches, right? Like that needs to be a thing too, just as much it is for athletes. And the question is, what kind of development actually works? What's beneficial for coaches? What's beneficial for a development plan to get coaches to be better coaches or better instructors or what have you?
I think that to be realistic, based off of what we have right now in America, it's going to be left up to individual dojos and the instructors to give chances to the assistant coaches and apprenticeship to other people to bring up the new level, because a lot of people hold on to their positions and don't want to be replaced,
It's so wild to me. Like I'm on a Facebook group, and I remember when I started Monument Judo, and I was like, okay, like what's the curriculum? Like I know judo, right? But I was like, how should I be teaching? These guys are brand new for the stand-up game. Like they do sloppy like double legs or single leg attempt, right? Like that's what they did. And so I was trying to figure out a curriculum, and I asked for feedback on this coaching forum on USA Judo that has a lot of people on it. And I got ripped to shreds for asking that question. And they're like, you don't know judo. Yeah. And I was like, yo, let's take a step back. We need to help each other. Why are we so angry?
I lurk a couple of those groups just because I want to see what's happening. And it's exactly as you said, like people who legitimately share stuff get ripped to shreds. And then I'm not going to say which dojo, but then I saw with some dojo showing clips of them training, and it's just clip like 10 to 20 seconds worth of clips of kids doing drop serenage and dropping the other kids onto their head, and everyone's like, "Oh, that looks amazing!" So, but those groups, this is why I kind of lament the state of judo, because there's no conversation going on, and people aren't sharing their coaching techniques or what they do in their class, and if it's different from what they're doing, they tend to like give people a shit for it. So what happens in these coaching groups is just people self-advertising themselves, and it's funny because they won't advertise to people that aren't doing judo, but they'll advertise to people who are already training judo like 2 states away, which isn't where they should be sharing this stuff on, which blows my freaking mind.
I think that there's a lot of issues within USA Judo, right? There's complexities and everything. And I think honestly, our biggest issue is communication. There's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of engagement. There's a lack of trust. There's a lack of community. And that's what I want to see improve. Like that's my goal for USA Judo. And because I'm not afraid to say, I don't know that answer. Like I'm sorry, I'm not sure, but you know what? Let's ask somebody else that does know that answer. Let's talk to them. Let's get their perspectives. Let's see if they know anybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody's so quick to say, well, this is the right way. This is the way we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we've always done it, right? Like, how well is that? We've sent four athletes to the Olympics. Our paras are very few far in between, right? Like we don't have a massive body. We got 12,000 members across the United States.
So before we turn this into like a therapy session, like,
I want to do one more nice question before we do therapies. Okay.
Wait, let me get through this. So because we were talking about Keith, right? How do you think the CEO's job is to keep USA Judo in the black and making money and increasing the membership base, or is it more to fund the athletes and produce medals at international tournaments, especially given the state that judo is right now in America?
That is a great question. I'm taking a second to think about it because I want to say both, but I want to answer your question. Is it this or that?
Well, if you need a second, the reason I asked is because I'll give my point of view first then, because I was going to have you give yours and then I give mine. But I think ultimately USA Judo's job is to fund athletes, just like any other country's national governing body, like Judo Canada, Judo France, and all of them. But we're like judo in America is on life support, so you can't squeeze blood from a stone. So a lot of people are like, well, USA Judo should stick to funding athletes, developing high level athletes, and leave the grassroots stuff to USJF and USJA. But I think just by those other two existing is doing a disservice to the growth of judo.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
How is that working?
It's not working. Exactly. That's one thing. Yeah. Because it's dividing up there's not a lot of judokas, and now you're trying to make people pick and choose where to divert the funds in. So instead of having this one large pot of money, you're just splitting it up, right?
Yeah.
And so with given that context, I think USA Judo's job now should be which is why it sucks for me and our athletes, right? The dissolution of the Three Alliance agreement. But I think that's a great decision by USA Judo. If you think about it from a business competitive aspect, they're taking a step to make themselves. They have the leverage to do that, basically. And we're seeing that because a lot of more and more tournaments in the area are basically sanctioning with USA Judo. More athletes, they're seeing that USA Judo seeing their membership counts go up. They're able to do that while increasing the price to $100 a year. So
a month, Anthony.
Yeah, sorry, but those are things that I think I don't know what Keith's role is in doing that, because I did read the emails. But I think that's good. And the athletes are complaining about lacks of funds, but I think I don't know if this is what Keith is doing, but I think there's no money. There's not enough money to fund a full team of athletes. So with the money that's there, they should be spent on marketing and spent on like the veterans, like you said, and also spent on growing judo, spent on developing coaches, doing mat loaning programs to help open more dojos. I think that kind of grassroots thing is what USA Judo should be doing with the limited resource we have, to kind of like give judo CPR, until it's healthy enough to where you can put them to work and actually get money now to fund the athletes. So I'm thinking in the long term, right? And the more people fight, the more we're not going to make LA 2028. It's going to be pushed further out. So,
well, no, it's just that we should have, when it comes to LA 21, because I know a lot of people keep talking about that now after Olympics, we should have been doing this stuff. I know,
ages
again,
ago.
COVID messed stuff up, messed a lot of stuff up, and we got even our dates got changed, but we should be doing this years ago. Not, oh shit, 4 years of the Olympics, we got to build a team in 4 years. No, we should have been building a team 10 years ago. Okay, or as soon as we knew that we were going to get the Olympics, we start building a team now. Make judo popular now.
I don't disagree with your stances. I think that USA Judo is grown by the general membership, right? USA Judo is not just elite athletes. It is the veterans. It's kata. It's juniors. It's paras that they can be involved too, right? Like there's a whole section of visually impaired athletes that are out there. You can see that through other sports, and like, why are we not trying to retain talent there either? It's like there are so many things that we can engage in, and I have ideas, but it takes commitment to change. And it's like every time we want to do something new, there's always resistance. That's what I think.
That's life. I think that's politics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's elections coming up in 2 months, and that's the same repeat.
Yeah. So the elections are actually really important. So there is the Board of Directors elections. There are 2 athlete representatives that are going to be up for rotation, and there is a coach representative that's up for rotation as well, along with the independent, which is chosen by the governance body, or the nominating committee, excuse me. And then there's the at-large, which, the full disclaimer for anybody listening, that's I'm running for that position. And I would love for you to reach out to me if you have specific questions, just like these guys do.
So going back to your Athletes Advisory Council. So how much say do you guys actually have? Like the feedback that you get from the athletes and you pass on to USA Judo, or is it kind of just like I'm trying to think of like the lower House of Commons in UK Parliament, where it's kind of like you have some say but not so much, it's just kind of for you guys to vent kind of thing.
I think it's like the lower House of Commons, right? Like I think that we do have certain powers that are delegated to us, and that we must, as the AAC, must complete, just like the Ted Stevens Acts points out. And so we're here for a reason. However, when we are talking about other topics that don't fall in those very specific categories, we can make recommendations to the board. And as the board, my understanding is they are supposed to hear this from the athlete's perspective, and from a national governing body. You have to do what is in the best form for said athletes. Like, that is why we exist as a national governing body, to be there for the athletes. And so if we make a recommendation and they don't follow it, that's their prerogative, if they have that power to do so. But if it's one of our specific delegated tasks, the board can't say no to that. So it just kind of all depends on what topic we're discussing at that point.
Okay. I kind of misspoke. I meant House of Lords. They're the ones that are involved. Sorry.
He's getting his stuff confused. I want to ask, So, like you said, you're supposed to be the voice of the athletes. So, how do you
Mhm.
contact the athletes? Are you like going to some of the bigger tournaments and talking to them? Are you just cold calling dojos? Are you visiting clubs? How do you contact some of these masters or veterans or whatever they call us nowadays?
Yeah, so I've been to a handful of veterans tournaments, Dallas, here in Denver. There's one coming up in Salt Lake that I would love to get to if I get a chance to. The World Championships are another thing. So making contact through tournaments and introducing myself and talking to as many people as I can, right? Like, hey, I'm the athlete rep. I've been to some camps before, some veteran camps, and just say, hey, I'm the athlete rep. If you have questions, if you want to provide feedback to USA Judo, please let me know. And just talking to people, right? I on my social media, it's very clear that hey, I'm the AAC rep. If you have questions, please come talk to me. So I post about stuff. All my judoka friends know that I'm in this role, and so I ask them to let their veterans know, or if they have like maybe an elite athlete or a junior, like okay, well, I am the chair of the AAC, so I'm more than happy to hear what you got going, and let me connect you with the junior rep. Let me connect you with the kata rep, right? And so there's a reason there's split out because there's a specific interest that population has. That I just don't know that much about. I know what kata is. I even did the kata but do I know the true culture? Do I know the ins and outs of kata? No, I don't. Right, just like I don't know juniors. I was a junior once upon a time, but we're talking about a long time ago. I got no idea what their challenges are today. Right, and again, I don't coach juniors. So like, I want to hear what's going on. I'm going to be helpful, and I'm going to connect you to the right person.
Okay. So
go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to ask him about at large. So
no, go ahead. I can ask my question after that.
Yeah. Can you tell us about at large? And I mean, when I first heard about it years ago, I didn't no idea what it meant. But now that I had to deal with like promotions and stuff like that for some people in our dojo, I kind of know. Could you kind of briefly explain what it is and what would your role be and your job be if you were to win that position?
Yeah, great question. So the board of directors has specific roles, right? There's the finance, there's the athlete, right? The at-large director is the body of USA Judo. So it is the representative for USA Judo and what the conglomerate, the community is wanting, right? So my role, if I were to be elected, is to go in there and say, okay, athletes focus on the elite side. The other directors and their specific roles focus on their specific roles. My role is to represent the USA Judo community. What do they want? What are their goals? What are their hopes for the future? What are they wanting to see change? And so the at-large director is responsible for that. So some people will say, "Oh, at-large is the easiest because you have the most flexible, specific focus." And I'm like, yes,
You have to do it with more people.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you have to take in everybody's point, right? Like you have to listen to them, you have to be engaging, because if you just write somebody off, right, like that's not going to get you anywhere, and that's not going to build relationships within USA Judo. And now you're one less person I can go say, hey Juan, I know that you were talking to me about something in South Carolina. I actually know somebody in South Carolina, right? Like the at-large is actually a really, really important director, because you have to be engaging. You have to be in the community. You have to talk to people. And I'm not afraid to do that. So that's why I got nominated for it. And I would love anybody's support. So,
so could you actually give me some examples of what kind of change or powers you like, tangible powers you actually have? Like if I came to you and I said,
I can fly. I got laser vision now. I'm bulletproof. And
if I came to you and I said, like, I can't stand the LA Parks and Recs program, I think it's a waste of money. Like hypothetically, I actually love it. Right?
Hypothetically,
if I told you that and you're like, yeah, it's dumb. Like, would you actually have any say in getting rid of it, or what are you more like dealing with the promotional requirements for a recreational route, or what kind of actual tangible changes would you be able to enact?
So the board of directors is a role for the direction of USA Judo. They make the direction changes. They like that you could say like, all we're focusing is on elite. Well, we can, as a body, as a board of directors, say, no, we need to focus on the general membership because not everybody's an elite athlete, right? So we're going to shift our perspective and focus on the body, like you were talking about earlier, right? As an example. So as a director, right, like the at-large director, what power do I have? It's a vote. It's I can bring something to the board and I can say, hey, this is what I'm hearing USA Judo wants. And my role is to ask questions and get the ideas and say, okay, we think we want a coaching development program in the United States. This is what I've heard coaches want. So XYZ, let's talk about, camps every year, annual or semi-annual camps for just coaches and talking about teaching techniques and education and what's going on internationally. What are they doing? Right. So like as the example, and as the at-large, I would make those recommendations to the board and then there's a vote and say, okay, yes, we're going to point the ship this direction or that direction.
So as opposed to, I see a referee board member here, a referee director. So as opposed to that, are you telling me that basically you guys have the same vote for the same stuff? So if he was saying, I want all referees to start dressing in bright yellow, and he puts that up to vote, you both basically going to have the same one vote. Okay.
Yeah. So each director has one vote, and so there can be a stalemate if there's an odd number, right? You also have to have a quorum when you're doing a board of directors. So there has to be so many people in attendance, which I actually think everybody should be in attendance at every board meeting, but I digress. I think that my vote is just as important as the referee's vote, though. Right. So it is even, but it's just as important because there's only so many directors on the board. And we're actually in really important decision making that points the ship in the right direction or what they think is the right direction. So I think the board of directors is vastly important, and you should know who is on the board and you should be engaged. If you have the opportunity and you care about where the direction is. If you're just somebody that wants to come in, learn some judo, and they're just local, hey, that's cool too. I've got nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you found judo. Judo has been phenomenal to me, to you guys, right? There's a reason why we're sitting here talking about judo. But if they don't care about the broader aspect of USA Judo, that's their prerogative. But if you care even an ounce, you should be aware of who you're talking to and being engaged with and making your voice heard. So like the elections that are coming up, athletes specifically have athletes and coaches specifically have until September 27th to register to vote for the athlete representative and the coach representative, right? So you have to be a 10-year what's known as a 10-year athlete within USA Judo. And if you meet that criteria, you don't even have to be a member of USA Judo. You could walk away from the sport altogether and still vote if you meet the 10-year criteria. And so you have to register and say, yes, I'm a 10-year athlete for USA Judo, and I want to vote for the athlete representative. Same kind of idea for the coaches. If you are a coach within USA Judo, you have to actually register for the coach voting process for the coach representative. And if you happen to be both, Colton Brown is probably the best example in these days, where he's a coach and he is a 10-year athlete, being the previous cycle Olympics. He can only vote in one specific. He can choose whether he wants to do the coach or the athlete rep voting, but he can only do one.
Yeah, that email I got about whether you're qualified to vote for each position or not is confusing as hell. Like, I think I have to draw out a flow chart just for myself to understand.
That's not USA Judo's fault. That's the USOPC and the Ted Stevens Act. So it's not. I will say, like, That's not USA Judo saying, here, we're going to put these parameters and we're going to put these guidelines. Like that's outside of USA Judo's control.
I'm assuming the structure of the board's the same, because based off of what you're telling me, I'm sorry, I'm going to be very blunt because I'm trying to keep it short, but all the positions seem kind of pointless in a sense, because you all have the same vote. Because what would make more sense is if we're putting up to vote something that's regarding the referees. I think the referee director should have 2 votes more than the other person, because then what is the point of having this guy being in that position? It just seems like what the key point of this is what we just talked about, the how you qualify to vote for each position. So you're just based off of whether you're a high level athlete or you're a coach or whatever, you get a representative, and that representative gets 1 vote, it seems like. And this is just a long roundabout way of doing that, I think.
I think the point is to have specific representation for each group, right? And to say, hey, the referees want X, the athletes want Y, the coaches want Z, right? And so it's supposed to be a diverse group that says, how do we, as these specific groups or the specific representation, come together and say, how do we want to see USA Judo implement these things? Or how do we not want to see them implement things?
Which is interesting, because it's a representational government, basically, right? Just like how we vote for our representatives to represent us, and I only qualify for my local Senate or my local district, right? But I'd imagine there's 2. So I'm looking at the page right now. There's 2 at-large directors. There's 4 athlete representatives, right? There's 3. Basically, I think if there's a vast majority of membership are people who don't compete and aren't high level, shouldn't there be more representatives for at-large than there is for athlete representative?
So what I'm hearing is, as the at-large, I should be the czar and just say how.
No, I'm
yes,
well, I'm
just kidding.
Yeah. Well, not just one person, but there should be more spots. Like if there's a larger population in California, then there should be more representatives, right?
So you want Congress, not the Senate, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair feedback. The bylaws don't allow for that, though, right? We have 1 rep per specific group, and that's the system we operate in. And USA Judo is not unique in that. Like that's just how NGBs run. I don't inherently disagree, but we also see how well Congress gets along with so many people too, right?
I also think, now that you explained this to me, like I'm glad we did this, because now that you explained this to me, it actually makes a lot of sense in the direction of the direction that USA Judo has been going, a lot of decisions that has been made, and also why a lot of the stuff we talked about previously of Keith trying to get done doesn't work, because he's trying to grow judo while these guys are trying to support the athletes. And we just talked about how right now there's only limited resources, so you can't go both ways.
And right now the board is split on quite a few. I don't really want to get in the specifics of that, right? Like, but there's dichotomies even in the board itself, and when there's dichotomies, there's gridlock. Like that's hard to make change too. So like, it's a difficult. I think you put it really well. USA Judo is on life support. We're trying to survive here as a body, as a community, and we want to see it grow. I have not talked to a single person that says, "Oh, USA Judo, they're perfect." Right? No one has told me that. So we know that there needs to be change, and that's why I'm running, and that's why I think a lot of people run. One thing that I think I specifically bring to the table is I try to hear both sides, and I genuinely try to hear both sides of whatever arguments, because at the end of the day, both sides want growth for USA Judo. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Well, I think like you said, both sides want growth for USA Judo, but both sides want different things. One side wants growth in participant numbers, and another side just wants medals and more athlete funding, which is, they're using the same description, but they mean 2 totally different things.
So my wife, if she listens to this, which she hears me talk all the time, so I don't know, but because she's in law school, right, final year of law school,
Mm-hmm.
everything is about definition, everything. So when we're having a discussion, right, and I say, well, can you define what you're saying about XYZ, right, and that alone, when I started defining things, even in my role as a financial advisor and my role with my community in judo, my volunteering, whatever, right? When I asked the question, well, what do you mean by this? And digging and getting further information is like, it's massive, because I think a lot of people have the same massive goal of like, we care about USA Judo. That's why we're here. That's why we're making our arguments. Okay, great. Let's hear it. Why do you feel that way? What do you think is good about that? What do you think is not good about that? If you're pointing out the good sides, have you thought about the negative sides of your argument too? And if they have, do they have an answer to it? Okay, cool. That's great. I love that. Right. So it helps make an informed decision in the direction of USA Judo. I think that's why it's so important to have people that like take a second and say, okay, well, let's dig a little bit deeper and let's understand this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just so I don't seem like I'm all one-sided, even though I am, but I think people need to be able to see it each other's point of view. Like the athletes, I think they're just trying to say we can raise money by having a grant writer or a whatever, marketing and sponsorships and stuff, and then we should just direct those money to the athletes directly, is what I think they think it's possible to do. But those sponsors aren't going to just give you money for free. They want like stuff in return. And if you don't have anyone training judo or watching these events, or anyone caring about judo in the first place, then the sponsors won't come.
Yeah, I think that so even in the world of sponsorship fundraising, there's individual sponsorships, and then there's group sponsorships, right? So like, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. USA Judo could go on Flow Roll and say, hey, we're USA Judo. Don't forget, if you want to learn stand-up and grappling from us, we have dojos across the nation, right? Like that could be something simple for the group. And then there's individual things where it's like, you could go to, I don't know, Gatorade or whatever. Gatorade's probably too big of a fish, but an individual company and say, hey, we want you to sponsor our elite athletes, and this is how we want, and this is what you get in return, right? And so those are two very different asks. And to say like, hey, Keith, hey, coordinator for marketing, go get all of these things done. Like you need to understand how to do those things. And I'm not the person to say how, because that's not my role, but there are people that specifically do that. And I think that would go a long way if we have a consultation or hire a consult to show USA Judo how to do that, right? I think that's a big part of what's missing in our financials is we have this opportunity and we're just not doing it.
Yeah, agree. So I want to go back to the marketing real quick, because you talked about how you spoke to the marketing people or in charge of, I'm assuming they're e-commerce. How long have they been doing this for? Is the current people doing it now the same as the people that came on, like I guess starting a couple years ago, and which caused an increase in more social media posts that we see?
I don't think so. I think they're new. So when I say they're new, they're not like new to the industry. They're new to USA Judo.
Okay.
The one guy's name is Bill, and Bill has tons of marketing experience from a NGB perspective. I forget which NGB he came from, but he's not a judo guy, to be very specific, but he is a marketing guy, right? And so they hired him fairly recently, actually. And then the other is Hannah Martin, and people will say, well, Hannah's an athlete, and I was like, do you not realize that she has worked for Judo Europe for multiple years doing their social media? Like she is a social media expert. and she did all of the European tournaments. She would go specifically for that while competing, right? And so European Judo said that, yeah, you're good at this. We're going to keep you on for multiple years, even though you're an athlete, right? Like, that was a phenomenal hire, in my opinion, from USA Judo to say, you are an expert at social media. You clearly have done wonderful for Europe Judo. What can you do for United States Judo? You know?
Yeah. Because the reason I asked is because it's definitely an improvement to stuff I've seen on social media, but I don't think it's where it needs to be. And hopefully they have a plan, because the one thing is I think it lacks engagement. It's just a lot of like, hey, support our so-and-so athletes going to here. Oh, so-and-so athletes got medals. Here's an Ippon that they did.
So
Like,
I will say it's got. I've since this last Olympic cycle, it was like that. I think this last Olympic cycle, like since the Olympics and the Paralympics, I think it got a little bit better with interacting with the players, getting a little more personality and stuff into it, which that's the way it's going to grow. I think.
I guess I disagree, because a lot of the stuff I see on there, I would just go on Judo Gallery for, basically, because I think Judo Gallery just has better content. But
Yeah,
you're
they got a whole
posting,
world of content to use.
you're posting
We
the
only
same
got
type
USA.
of. Yeah, I know, exactly. So I think you need to get people to click on the Instagram. Again, getting the clicks, the likes, the engagement is going to bring sponsorship. You're going to have to do something like bring on a celebrity or get some influencer or Twitch streamer to try out judo for a week and post it on your Instagram. And why doesn't USA Judo have a YouTube channel, like having whoever, one of the athletes, reps demonstrating a technique?
Let's get Mr. Beast and have him do judo.
Well, he might be too expensive, you know.
Yeah, he's pretty expensive now.
But I mean, look at all the dumb shit those kind of influencers get kids to do. I don't think it'll be that hard to get them to do judo.
No, you're not wrong. And I think that so I don't know Bill a ton. I've only had literally one conversation with him. I think he's fairly new with USA Judo, so I think that there was a new direction that he's gonna take it. And then Hannah Martin is like freshly engaged with USA Judo, so there's new blood in the social media and in our marketing. So more to come on that. I can't say like it's going to be perfect, but I have hope that it's going to improve overall, because I think you're right. Like, I didn't even think about hiring a streamer, right? Like, that's a great idea.
They're cheaper than getting Keanu Reeves. I'm just saying. So
we should have got Keanu Reeves.
And
honorary black belt from Japan. Like,
so yeah, the reason I say that is because I saw volleyball explode in popularity in recent years. I know I hate volleyball, by the way, but a bunch of my friends are coaches, and one of my cousins a coach in volleyball, and they're just telling me how the popularity has skyrocketed. And I started noticing this because AVP, like I forgot what it stands for, but they out here in Los Angeles. It's a volleyball championship, right? They have it out here in the beach volleyball, out here in Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach sometimes, and they pay Twitch to put and live stream their tournaments on the front page of Twitch. I don't know how much I don't know how much that would cost, but that drove up viewership. And I'm sure also there's this volleyball anime that came out that drove up like kids participation too. So I just don't know why USA Judo isn't doing that. And I'm going to pose this question to you, even though I'm going to sound like a dick for saying that, but it's just the reality. Would you rather drop like $40,000 or whatever, how many $1,000 to fund an athlete to get knocked out in the first round in some international tournament? Or would you spend that money to get Mr. Beast to go train judo at somewhere and record it and post it in social media?
So as a financial professional, my genuine answer is what's allocated where and why is it allocated that way? I think if there's room in the budget for, doing a Mr. Beast engagement, absolutely we should do that, right? Now, what is our budget? Why is it set that way? I think that's the heart of your question. The heart
of the question is, why aren't we redirecting the athletes' funds? This is why I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. to marketing to grow the pie instead of splitting the pie in half?
So it's an allocation resource question, right? I can't speak to why the budget is set the way it is currently. Now, to answer your question, should we spend 40,000 for Mr. Beast or 4,000 for somebody to go to the Paris Open and be one and done? I think the value in that very specific question would be Mr. Beast. I think that there would be an uptick in membership, therefore an uptick in funds available for USA Judo. That being said, I still think there needs to be a budget for those athletes that are going and trying to compete on the highest levels.
Because I mean, I think there is like a point where the money is so little. I'm sure they're going to say every little bit helps, right? But they're so little, and you're only funding like 2 people, I guess. Last time I checked, that you might as well just not give it to them, because I think you get a lot more return on your investment by redirecting those funds somewhere else. So, I mean, it's worth a shot to do it for 1 year and then see if it works, versus doing the same thing we've been doing the last few years and just slowly see the athlete funds decrease because we're losing money. So,
and you know what? There's validity to that perspective. Do you know D'Artagnan,
Yes.
formerly Crockett? So his last name is Devon now. D'Artagnan is he's my best friend. And when he won medal, I think it was at Rio, he didn't get paid. And USA Judo reached out to him and was like, "Hey, can you give us a shout out for like our social media or something?" He was like, "No, like you treat me like a second class citizen." And I have this massive brand on ESPN and all this stuff at the time. He really did. And he was like, you didn't even pay me for my Olympic or my Paralympic medal, yet you paid somebody that finished 7th in the Olympics money, but you didn't pay me anything, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a unique case, right? Mm-hmm. But that is an example of how USA Judo, I think, fails its elite athletes too. And they don't even provide the money.
So when you say that, it's like whose fault was that though? Because I feel like that's one person's in charge's fault, not like the organization as a whole's fault when they did that.
I don't know. I can't put the blame on any specific person because I do not know who writes those checks, who approves it. Yeah. At the end of the day, though, Keith is the CEO, and he's the one that is making the operations decisions for USA Judo. So if D'Artagnan went to Keith and was like, I'm not doing this because of this reason. Yeah. Keith heard him, understood, and I don't know if Keith didn't pay him and he was the one that made the decision, or if it was somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah, but imagine like, say, hey, use the code Mr. Beast to get 10% off on your first year of USA Judo. Also get 10% off on your Fuji Sports ski order. Like,
well,
yeah,
there's funny little stories. Like there were stories I heard like years ago. I think it was back when I was a white or brown, but I think I heard a story about a old judo pseudo celebrity that USA Judo paid for them to go to Europe, represent Team USA, do all stuff. They paid for their room.
Just say it was someone from our dojo. You can say that.
It wasn't from our dojo. Actually, I heard another judo as a coach thing that I went to years later, and I was like, so they paid for this guy to do all this stuff for the growth of judo or USA Judo, but they couldn't pay for Kayla's training or something, or Travis's training. Because this is back then. This is back when they were like big international. Not when they were champions yet, but back then I was like, so they couldn't pay for them, but they could pay for this pseudo old celebrity to do this that didn't get us anything for it.
I think no matter where the money goes, people are going to complain because it's money, right? Exactly. Like I deal with money consistently, and it's like I talk to people that have no money, and I'm genuinely helping them figure it out. And I talk to people that have tons of money, and they complain because they have tons of money and they have to pay taxes and all these things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay taxes.
To Hollywood Judo, donate to USA Judo and Hollywood Judo if you want.
I actually have to be very careful of that in my role because of regulations on the finance side. Because I'm tied to USA Judo, so I have to be careful. Now, if they inquire about it, you bet I'm talking about it. but I can't just be like, hey, donate to USA Judo.
You'd be like, oh, I see you like this BJJ stuff. Have you ever heard of judo?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I tell my clients, like, my clients are not just like, I try to have a personal relationship with them. So all of my clients know that I've done grappling, judo, BJJ throughout my whole life. So we have had discussions on that, and people that are philanthropic, they do donate, and it's just the right time and the right place, the right conversation.
That's nice. So here's what I wanted to go into. So we talked a little bit about you're running for this new position in the board and stuff. What made you choose to run in the board anyway, to become a CC, an AAC member? Did someone tell you like, hey, I want you for this position? Did you like, I saw this open spot and I want to do it myself? What brought you to this?
Like many things we're talking about, I didn't feel supported from USA Judo when I was an athlete, right? I will try to be as unbiased as I can here about my background, right? Obviously, it's my background, so there's going to be some bias, right? I was a national level athlete. I fought internationally. I was splitting time between my undergraduate degree and number 3 in the nation behind DePopolo and Michael Eldred. Right. And I held my own with those guys. Every time we fought, like I was toe to toe with those guys. When I went to international competitions, like I didn't do anything crazy. Like I didn't walk away with, a Grand Prix medal or anything. Right. Like I was not that guy, but I was a guy that was on the cusp and needed support to make it to that next level. And I actually got a very serious concussion while I was training, and it was so bad that I was missing 3 months out of my life. And I remember talking to the USA Judo doctor and him saying, you have a virus, and just blew me off and was like, go on, you're good. And I'm like,
is that USA Judo or the US Olympic Training Center?
It was the USA Judo doctor.
I didn't know USA Judo had a doctor. Wow.
They did for a specific period of time, and I forget his name, honestly.
Yeah, you're concussed, brother. You don't remember shit. All right, you lost 3 months. You said, all right.
No, but it was a guy, and I think he was in Miami. He was from Miami, that area. But end all be all, like that was a very clear moment to me that I was like, dude, I'm fucked up. Like, excuse me, but like
it's okay. We got no sponsor. We got no sponsors either. Right? You curse all you want. All right.
Like I'm not okay. And I was an up and coming athlete. I was on the cusp. But I fully believe if I didn't retire because of my concussion, I could have made it to the next level. Now, after that, I got no idea. Right? Would I be another 7th place medal or a 7th place in a random international tournament? Yeah, maybe. I got no idea. But I could have made it because I was already going to these international tournaments, the smaller international tournaments I medaled in, right? Like, and so I had talent, but nowhere was I supported from USA Judo. And even this is why I say I'm not an Ed guy. I love Ed. I do like him as an individual, but he as a coach wasn't there for me, right? And so I was very angry when I left judo and I retired and I stepped away. There are other reasons, but
this sounds very familiar.
At the end of the day, I wasn't supported, and that's why I said I stepped away. I found out who I was. I came back to judo. I came back to the community, and now I'm engaged in a completely different way than I was previously before. And I have the capacity now to take a look at a situation and not be so angry with the past because I've let it go. It's done, right? Like I went to therapy, right? I saw a psychologist because of how angry I was and how unsupported I was. And I put my hopes and my dreams and everything I had into trying to make it. And nowhere along the line I felt supported. And even in there was, we'll even say this one time before I went to the Olympic training, or while I was at the Olympic Training Center, my previous coach literally physically attacked me at the Dallas Invitational because I beat one of his students. And so like, not only from a USA Judo perspective, but from the coaching levels and the athlete support and how much athletes used to talk smack and like there's bickering back and forth and all that. And so like all of that, I truly have let go. And I'm glad that I've let go, because now I can take my role and say, how can I improve it? Because I don't want this for the next generation. I don't want this for the athletes that are here now. I don't want that for the coaches that are here now. I don't want this for USA Judo, because at the end of the day, I am who I am because of judo. I cannot thank judo enough for making me the person that can overcome adversity and literally getting up when being thrown to the ground, right? Like that saying, like, get up when you get thrown down, or, you know, why do we fall, Bruce? To stand back up, right? Mm. There's so much that judo has instilled to me, and I want that for somebody else, but I want their experience to be more positive than mine. Mm. And that's why I ran for the AAC. That's why I'm running for at large. Sure, there's things that I have perspective on, and there's things that I have, you know, a platform and my own thing. But at the end of the day, man, just like everybody else, I think we want to see USA Judo thrive. And I have a passion to help make it thrive. And I will beat myself up if I don't try. And so this is me trying, because I'm not somebody that's going to be running a club, right? I'm not going to run a club for a full time. I share judo. I do camps. I do community events. I have a small program at a BJJ club, right? But I'm still involved in judo very heavily because I care. And that's the answer to your question. Like in the heart of hearts, like, I'm sure other people that have, when they were 5 years old, right? I remember the first tournament I had, and it was in a little garage. And that was a great memory, right? I want that for a little kid running around, a little girl beating a little boy, and like she feels empowered because she just beat up this boy, right? Like, I want that stuff. I want the spirit of judo to grow in the United States.
That's great. I agree. So why, let's try and get you some votes, right? So
I think we just did that speech right there.
Why
Thanks, Mr. President? Have a good
night. So I'm assuming if I had someone, a beginner walking through the door, sign up judo like 2 months ago, are they eligible to vote for you?
Yes. So the at-large representative, anybody that is 18 or older and is a USA Judo member, can vote for me.
Okay.
Interesting.
So
do they have to? We talk about the red. They don't have. Do they have to register or just be a member of the USA?
Nope.
Judo?
They just have to be a member, and that on October 7th through the 10th, there will be emails that get pushed out. Well, if you're a member of USA Judo, you can vote. There's a specific deadline for the athlete and the coaches, but that's before. October 7th through the 10th is when the live voting goes, and you can cast a vote for me if you want. I would love the support.
Yep. So back to that example, why should someone that just signed up like recreationally? Because most of the people I know that signed up, they don't even know why they have to sign up for USA Judo. So it's so hard to convince them that you need to sign up for this just because you have to. And now they're like, oh, vote for this. And they're like, why? Why? How is it going to affect me? Like, not just having the USA Judo membership doesn't affect most of the people out there.
You're not wrong. And full disclaimer, my club is not a USA Judo club, right?
You're not supposed to say that.
I mean, that doesn't mean I'm not spreading judo. Like, none of my guys are competing in USA Judo events, and they don't need the membership. Now, if they, being my athletes, say, I want to go compete, or I want to go to a camp, or I want to just support USA Judo, then I think they should be a member, right? I don't think forcing people is the way to do it. I get business why you make that happen, but I don't think from a moral place, like morals and business, you know, I don't know, but like, let me answer your question, because you asked what can USA Judo do for recreational athletes?
So basically, I'm asking, what can you tell me to relay to my students to get them to actually register and vote when they don't even know why they have that membership in the first place?
Do they have? Do they watch YouTube videos of
I'm
judo?
sure they do, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, the American judo system, whether you agree with it or not, USA Judo has it, and it is quality techniques, it's quality perspectives. It can help people learn judo, right? And you can say, hey, if you have questions on Ushimata, there's actually a video on the USA Judo website that you can go to and use as a resource, and say, hey, this is a specific resource, so you don't have to find Shintaro's Uchimata video or my Uchimata video or whatever, right? Or you're looking at Uchimata compilation highlight reel, right? Like there's a specific breakdown. So that is a benefit for the recreational athlete, I think. And I think a lot of people have very strong opinions of the American judo system. I'm not saying it was a wise purchase. I'm also not saying it was a dumb purchase, but it's a resource we have now at our fingertips. So I think that's an example. And the also is kind of the bigger perspective of, if you like judo, this is how we support judo in the United States.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I should have made the question more clear. Like, why should they take the time out to register to vote?
Oh, they don't. They don't need to register.
Yeah.
They don't. Oh, I apologize.
Or just vote in general.
So why should they vote?
How would this affect them, their day-to-day judo life? It is what I'm saying.
The direction of USA Judo to impact their resources.
Yes, because right now, as we discussed this whole past hour, it's like a lot of stuff has to do with competitive athlete representation, a lot of it. And we talked about how there's a gap for a development model in general, but that they've tried that with AJDM and for a few other things, and we just haven't seen that happen. And I don't see, even if they come up with something, I don't see how they're going to enforce it.
I think it takes time. So first off, change takes time.
Yes.
But for a recreational judoka, I think it's important to vote, because if you say, hey, Matthew, I'm a recreational player, but I would love to have a camp at my state or at my area, and I want USA Judo to host it. Like, that's an example of what USA Judo can do for the recreational athlete, right? And say, hey, come to our camp, learn some things. Let's do a half a day of randori, half a day of technical, and you're going to walk away with some knowledge, right? What recreational or what athlete wouldn't want that, right? Like that's a benefit. And I think that if we support those that support change, that's how we get those resources for those recreational players.
Okay. Yeah, because I think, other than you, I don't know anyone else that's running it. I'm someone that kind of follows this. So if I'm going to vote, I'm going to vote for you just because I had this discussion with you, right? I don't know how any of those other candidates are pulling votes other than through people they know. So
I'm not going to speak about the other person because I don't know them personally. I will say, though, if you are looking at the at-large directors, and you should do your research. You should ask questions. You should find out who the other person is. And with that research, I think you will see that I might be the better choice. Again, I'm not going to speak about the other person. I don't know them.
Yeah, it's because they're not on Tatami Talk. That's why.
We need to get you a catchphrase. I remember MTV's "You Rock the Vote." We need to get you like "Throw Down the Vote," "Toshi the Vote" or something.
Oh, I like that.
But yeah. So I feel like USA Judo is dropping the ball here. They should have like the each candidate be posted on some election website with like a short 3-minute YouTube video with a text blurb about their stance and what we're talking about right now, basically, right?
So there will be every candidate for every whatever role that they submit, there will be a blurb They asked for a 1-page, basically statement of position. And a lot of what I've talked about is on there, but there's some ideas on there that I shared as well. And so you will get a statement that says, hey, these are the things. Now, as far as engagement is concerned, right? Why are we not talking about the specifics? As the AAC chair, I've actually, I said, hey, why don't we have people promote this, right? And it's like, well, we don't want to give cadence to like, if there's partnerships or if they've been seen together or like things like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but man, like you can't. And I'm one to maybe have a more risk tolerance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one to say, well, just ignore the bad comments and engage with the good comments, right? Like, who cares if?
Yeah, they want engagement, but then they don't want to deal with it.
Right. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, I'm just like, you got to do something to make change happen.
Yeah. So you're making it sound really enticing. Is it too late for me to apply to run against you?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So I will say that if this is something you're interested in, the board changes every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically to keep a rotation, right? So like the 2 athlete directors, we actually have 4 athlete directors, right? So there's 2 new ones that'll be coming in, or two athlete representatives that are going to be put on the board. That way, so there's not change happening and everybody is overhauled every time. It's half the board every 2 years.
Staggered, yeah.
Yeah.
I was jokingly asked that because if there's someone listening out there and let's say they're like a brown belt in their 50s or something, and they're interested in being involved next time the election comes around, what would you suggest that they do and how they get involved and get onto the ballot?
So if they want to be specifically with the board of directors, there is a nomination period, and it'll say like, I forget what at this point, maybe it was July or August, by X date, somebody needs to submit the name of who's interested. And
you can nominate yourself.
I didn't, but I did talk to my friends that are in judo, and I was like, hey, will you nominate me? Like, I want to do this.
You hear that one?
Well, if I nominate you, you nominate me. We're gonna make the Tatami Talk. We're gonna take over this place. All right.
And so I don't know if you can nominate yourself. I didn't do that, but I had friends that are like, yeah, I think you would be great for the role. Let's put you in. And that's the process just to get in the running. Now, I will say I'm not a politician, but dude, it has been political trying to talk to people. Yeah. and people have very strong opinions, and I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I want to know more. Tell me more about that. Like, what specifically are you concerned about, or what are your frustrations about? Because I've been there. I know frustration with the organization, and at the end of the day, I think people want to be heard, and I think people want to see change.
Okay. So, I mean, we kind of went over it, but I want it to be more direct, the answer. What do you think about the direction of USA Judo over the last, like, let's say 6 to 8 years? During Keith's tenure.
Yeah, I really liked that he cleaned up the books. That was like, that as a financial guy, like that was impressive. And I think he inherited a pretty crappy situation. So kudos to him, where kudos are due. I think that the high performance, the elite athlete stuff, we didn't do great, right? We sent 4 in 2020, 4 in 2024, and less than stellar results. And that is not a knock on those athletes. I want to be very clear. Not a knock on our athletes. That being said, we are seeing some fruit from it. Like, we just had a cadet world champion. That's never happened, right? So the things that were happening when that kid was 6 or 8 years younger, Keith started implementing change, right? So I think Keith has done some good things. I think the direction of USA Judo compared to Jose is positive. Maybe it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. It's I think there was positive change. I think there needed change. And like you said, you hire certain people to do certain jobs. And maybe, depending on what Keith's positions are for the future, it could be time for another person to step into that role.
Yeah, maybe he could be CFO.
I'm not in that role. I'm not on the board yet. And the board is the one that makes the decision on whether they renew Keith or they don't renew Keith.
Okay. Will it be up to you, or will it be up to the current board? Will you get the vote on that?
Right now, his contract ends this month.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to vote on that even if you win.
No, hypothetically, now if there's gridlock, right? Like I don't know what happens in that specific scenario. I'm guessing that the USOPC may step in and say, make a decision, right? Like, because we are an NGB, so we have to have certain things. We report to the USOPC, right? And so we have to have certain things met. And I don't know where they come in and say, get this done now, or you lose your NGB status. Like, I don't know. That is not something I'm aware of at this time.
Are the board positions paid?
No, volunteer.
No. Okay, volunteer.
Yeah,
right.
as a matter of fact, if I get elected, I won't even get reimbursed for my airfare or my hotel when I go to, the board meetings.
It sounds like a perfect position for me because I do all that crap already anyway. So my next question is, so we already talked about what you thought about the direction. So, what do you think about the expiration of the 3 Judo Alliance agreement? Like, do you think it was a good idea, like a necessary, like ripping the Band-Aid off kind of thing? And should USA Judo be involved with grassroots judo at all?
So, I have a little bit of insight on the termination. The other organizations didn't want to follow suit with the requirements of safe sport. And I don't mean that from a they don't like safe sport. It's a data collection piece. And so because of that, the other 2 organizations backed out, and
it's expensive.
It is.
Yeah.
And USA Judo's, from my understanding, and I have only talked to USA Judo, I have not talked to the other organization heads to see what their perspective is. So only from what I know is USA Judo said, hey, we just need your data to integrate with our data so that we can fall in compliance with safe sport. That was the start of this downfall of the agreement. My understanding. I could be wrong. That's what I've been told anyways. Now, you asked the question.
That's what the emails that were released shown too. So yeah.
I also know that there's power dynamic struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, there's power dynamic struggles. I think that played in a factor too, to be honest with you. But I digress. The question is, should USA Judo be involved in grassroots? I think the answer is yes. I think that we need to get USA Judo to get marketing out there and say, kids, come try this. Adults, come try this. BJJ, come try this. Right? Like,
learn how to throw someone properly and correctly.
actually, that's kind of a pet project of mine. I'm actually thinking of ways through my local area in Colorado to do like a grappling tournament, like Kosen Judo or grappling submission judo, right? Like there was at Nationals. I think it'd be a great idea. Like, do you guys know anything about like the BJJ scoring system?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would think it'd be really cool to say, okay, Owazari gets you 1 point, and Ippon gets you 2 points, and your goal is to get 3 points. You can still submit somebody on the ground if you get an armbar or a choke or whatever. But the point is takedowns. That's why we're doing this, right? Like that's the take. And if we did that and we marketed that to BJJ guys and gals that do the sport, there are people that want to do takedowns. like there's a market for it. And I think that's a great way to get involved with judo just in general.
So this is just my opinion. I think there's too many rule sets out there already. So if you're going to do something like that, I think there's already the Kosen rule set, right? So not that I like it, but that's one thing you could stick to. Or there's the freestyle, because you're talking about point system, right? There's the freestyle judo rule set. But one thing that people haven't explored, if you want to market to BJJ people, is to just have the BJJ rule set, but make the takedowns give you like 10 points or something like that. Like,
well, you could do it like Greco, where it's like it's a 3-point throw, a 4-point throw, a 5-point throw.
That's much more familiar to BJJ athletes, and also at the same time, you're emphasizing the scoring on takedowns. You're giving a huge incentive to score takedowns.
I think that's a really brilliant idea to say, hey, okay, like let's implement the Greco-Roman style that Juan was talking about, 4-point throw, 5-point throw, whatever, right? I think where the challenge is going to be is, okay, well, I'm just gonna sit down on the ground and I'm going to not allow him to throw me, right? And maybe I'll take the other person gets an advantage, right? Or something. I don't know exactly. It depends what rule set you're doing, if it's IBJJF or Naga or whatever. Naga's the Wild West.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
The tournaments are kind of fun, but they're the Wild West. So I think that's where you might get some issues there on a judo throw or a wrestling throw or any takedown is 10 points or whatever. That's why
when I say takedown, I meant a ippon, not a BJJ drag you to the floor and a takedown.
Okay, so like a actual where ippon. I think Juan came in and said like a 4-point throw or whatever. Yeah. Maybe that's where if it's a crappy takedown, okay, you get like 2 points. If you throw somebody with authority, it's a 5-point throw, right? Like I see what you're saying. That could work.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
All right,
go ahead,
great. Yeah, I'm not gonna charge you for that consulting. So, I'll edit this out if you don't want to answer it. Right? Do you think the Judo Alliance agreement dissolution was a good thing or a bad thing?
You don't need to edit it out. I think that it was a necessary circumstance.
Okay.
I think it was necessary.
Yeah. You got my vote. So that's something I agree. I totally agree on, isn't it? It's been really annoying for us, but I thought it was for the greater good in the long term. So
I did too. I did too.
Yeah. Made the best one win, right? So what would you like? So let's say you're a benevolent dictator. Let's say you're the CEO and all your friends are on the board. You have the full control of Congress, basically. What would you enact to change?
I hire sponsorship reps to get money, right? Like that would be the first thing I would implement is we need more money, right? Because the whole thing is, why are we sending money to this? Why are we putting money to that? Well,
you mean you're not going to redirect the athletes' funds to Powerball?
No. Actually, that's a good idea. So if we buy enough lottery tickets, okay, got me on. Okay, we get enough Powerball tickets, all right? We do the random odds there, all right? We're bound to win something.
I think that would be my number one implement is my very first thing is I'm hiring somebody to bring in more money, right? The other thing I think that Ajax and I actually talked about this is an endowment. If we have enough money, right, and we have an opportunity to create an endowment fund that produces more money, right?
Yeah, I was going to say you're thinking way ahead here.
Yeah, I am. I definitely am. But like, I think that's if we had that, you're saying in my perfect scenario, right? Yeah. Like this is my perfect scenario. So that I think there's that. Kind of the first level is we need money, and then second, how do we appropriately use this money? And that all depends on how much money we have and what's going on with the body of USA Judo.
Yeah, I think that's important. Just before you go on, I think it's really important that you have that. I mean, it kind of made a joke, but it's important to have a plan on what you're going to do with that money, because a lot of people get lucky and come with that money and they don't know what to do with it and it just sits there, and that's losing value and you're losing opportunities while it's just sitting there doing nothing.
As a financial advisor, I would agree with you.
Yes.
Money is a tool, and you can, with any tool, right? You can build something with it, or you can destroy something with it, right? And I think money, if used properly, can build a phenomenal program, can build a phenomenal community, can do the right things. And you can even see it in, like, a basic example of that is like how different cities run their own budgets. You can step in one city and like, oh, this is a really well maintained city. Like they engage with people, they help out the community, whatever. You go to another city and it's completely different, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's just, how do you budget and how do you allocate resources? And a big part of that is, what do I have at my fingertips? What do I have available? So my number one is, let's get more, and hire somebody that knows how to do that to do it. My second, I have all the power answer is engage with the community of USA Judo. So that actually means having conversations with dojos, going and talking to them and seeing what their needs are, what their complaints are, what their struggles or what their aspirations are, right? And talking to everywhere across the United States, right? Like that's something I would do as CEO or as the benevolent. What do you need? What is it that USA Judo wants? Because at the end of the day, the body of USA Judo is why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I would do. And what my next step is would depend on the answer for what does the body of USA Judo. And I would be transparent. I talk to X amount of dojos. I talk to Y amount of coaches. I talked to Z amount of athletes. These are the findings that I had, X, Y, Z, right? And based off of this, we're going to push or go for whatever it is.
So do you have a plan for a development model for like just recreational athletes or even competitive athletes? Because that's something you said Keith kind of failed to implement. But do you have a plan for that?
So I think that starting that there needs to be some type of system. I've talked to coaches that are like, we're coaches, this is what we do. And
technique of the day.
Yeah, you're right. That's what you've done. Is there not a better way to do it though? Like, just because we've done a system one way, does that mean it's the best way to do it? Like, do you not think that you as a coach can find value in something different? You should be forever learning in this role. Like as a coach or as a mentor or as a sensei, as a dojo owner, there's something to always learn, always. And if you just have this mentality of, this is how I've always done it and I don't want to change. And I think there are coaches that are out there that have that mentality. I understand that's your mentality. I just straight up disagree with that mentality.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of coaches out there that treat their club as kind of like a retirement home. It's like extracurricular activity, so, which is fine for a recreational club, but
sure,
it's not going to work for developing athletes, I think.
I would like to see some type of system that we as a community say, okay, we're going to build this development program out. I think it starts with coaches, to be honest with you. I think that the coaching certifications need to be overhauled. I think there needs to be better training.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So I think that's where we start. Realistically, I think that's where we start.
Before even the development model.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thoughts, what are your thoughts on, I'm not even going to talk about performance, but just anything. Thoughts on the Olympics, whether not even the athletes, but USA Judo did a good job given the resources for this current Olympics, and how ready do you think we are for LA 2028?
I don't think we're ready.
Okay.
I don't think we're ready. We're going to send a full team, and we don't have an answer. Even on the AAC, we don't have an answer of like, how do we make the decision to send athletes, like what's the criteria? Because it's not the same as any other Olympic run. It's different for us because we're a host country.
Yeah.
And so that's a very difficult conversation, and we're not ready for USA Judo from a USA Judo perspective. I don't think that we have the talent to be ready for USA Judo, right? We're just not there. And that's coming from somebody that didn't even make it to a world team member, right? Like I wasn't the guy, right? I think we need more talent in this nation from an elite perspective. And that breeds excellence when there's talent on talent. Iron sharpens iron kind of thing. And part of that is the development question that you were asking. The things that I would have liked to see implemented 8, 12 years ago, this should have been started. But what can we do now? What are the things that I have a saying when I talk to clients, and part of my role is to provide just financial education, right? And I just talk to people, like 401k participants or whatever. And one thing I really like to implement and say is like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today, right? So we can't control what we've done in the past. It's done. But what are we doing today that's going to make tomorrow better? Like, what are we going to change about our habits, or what are we going to change about our circumstances that are going to put us in a better position tomorrow? And I think that's the reality that we need to have in USA Judo. Like, we can't look past. We have to look, what are we doing today moving forward?
Okay. So, yeah, I totally agree. I really, really think the black belt promotion criteria needs to be redone because it's heavily competitive focus. So it kind of rules out a lot of like recreational competitors.
Okay.
That's one. And I'm not saying do what the other organizations are doing, because I think they kind of like set the bar too low in a sense, but I think there could be a sweet spot. And the other thing is, I think we desperately need some sort of black belt tracking system, because I think anyone that's looking to start judo should be able to look up whether someone's USA Judo black belt is legitimate or not, and who they got it from, when they got it, what kind of competitions they competed in. Like, especially now that we have smooth comp with the records, that should be like easy to do. So I think there should be some sort of black belt tracker kind of system, because the one right now, it's literally a web page with like a huge list, and as a control F, look for someone. And I think there's someone I know that got in our dojo that got their black belt, and I'm just like, I don't see them on here. So
I think smooth comp would actually be a great system to use to have a database of saying, okay, is Matthew Parker a black belt? Let's look.
But the smooth comp doesn't verify it though.
And I think that's where the contract, I think we can come in and say, hey, we would like to verify specifically our black belts. I think that's possible. Smooth comp is just a technology, right? At the end of the day, it's a technology. Technology can be molded. And I think that's an easy ask. If you're a black belt, you just have to send in your verification through USA Judo that you have it, right? Or it automatically links, because your black belt should be verified within USA Judo.
Yeah, they have the Sport 80 thing. I don't know why I can't log into Sport 80 and search up someone's black belt status. I don't know why I can't do that.
I do want to ask you. So, like, I want to hear more about your perspective on what would you like to see changed with the black belt criteria? Like, in your envisionment, how would you see this done?
So I'm going to use myself as an example, right? Because I got my knee done through USJA, and I think I was short on time on grade for USA Judo. I think I was short like 2 competitive points because it didn't count some of the. I emailed them and asked them, hey, would these tournaments count? Would these events count? And they're like, no, it doesn't, right? Because it's like our in-house tournament or something like that, right? But even though we invited other clubs, we're not fighting our own people. So I decided to go to USJA route because I'll describe the differences real quick, right? So USA Judo basically only cares about competition, right? So if you don't compete, you don't get enough points and you don't get the time and grade reduction. USJF offers two paths. They have the volunteer technical path, like the doing the kata, all that stuff, and then they have the competitive path, which for me doesn't work because I did a bit of both. I compete a little, and I also do a little bit of teaching, and I also do kata, and I do all the teaching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't combine both. You have to pick one or the other. So if I choose a competitive path, it's basically the same as USA Judo. If I pick the technical path, then I can't use any of my competitive points.
Okay, so
that's USJF, right? And USJA is the reason I went with them, is because they took in an account how much I teach, how much time I train, how much time I attend class, how much time I compete, how many points I get. So I'm actually able to combine all of that. So I feel kind of left out because I'm doing a bit of everything. I'm like an all-arounder. But here I am. I'm not someone who just sits on the side all day, and I'm not someone who competes every single day of my life. So now I'm getting punished for being stuck in the middle, is how I feel like. So
you should, and to be very clear, I don't think that's how you should feel, right? You should feel supported from USA Judo.
And I think I'm not a minority. I think most people out there are like me. They compete 2 to 3 times a year, and that's it, right?
I appreciate you sharing this with me because mine is just through competition, right? That's what mine was. So that's an interesting challenge. I think that there could be easily a point criteria that says, do you coach? Yes. Okay. That's 5 points. How often do you coach? Plus or minus that 5 points because of how often you coach or whatever. Are you a dojo owner? If so, what does that mean? How do you do this? And so the context matters, right? The complexities matter. I've done kata. That's something that I really enjoy, and I actually promote it within my club. Okay, great. That should be taken into consideration. And so I hear what you're saying. I think that from a organization standpoint, the easiest is a point system that says, okay, if you've done that, if you met this criteria, it's a point there. If you've done this, it's a point there, whatever. Because USA Judo is not just competition. There is the body of USA Judo. When it comes down to it, the elites are 1% of the 120 athletes, let's call it, and that's it, right? That's juniors, seniors, paras. For the world championships, even if you can't include veterans, there's 148 going, but how many of those, if it wasn't in the United States, would be going to the world championships, right? So competition is just an aspect of USA Judo. There's a whole body out there that is much more than just competition. And I think I'm in agreement with you, Anthony. I think that we need to not forget that as USA Judo and put kudos where kudos are due.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that just because I deserve a knee on, or I think it's not because of that, but it's the greater part is as far as I remember, you can't promote a shodan unless you're a sandan. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you need to be 2 levels above.
Yeah, and if you're a shodan, you can start your own club, but if you're to promote anyone a shodan, you need to basically be beholden to someone else. You have to ask someone else. So now you're asking someone 2 states away, and I've actually seen this happen in my old club. You're asking someone 2 states away to vouch for your athlete, and how it usually happens is now you got to meet at a tournament, and that guy that's vouching for you has to see your athlete compete, or you're going to have to pay the guy's flight and hotel to come evaluate your athletes, which I think is stupid, because I think if you own a club and your competitors are destroying the competition, and we're not even talking about recreational at this point, right? If they're competing, they're destroying competition, they should be able to promote their athletes. And by restricting the way that you promote from shodan to nidan to sandan, it's kind of bottlenecking the growth of these clubs and additional coaches and additional athletes and additional shodans. I've actually seen this happen in another club where my sensei promoted a bunch of people, in quotes for those who are listening, bunch of people are Shodan, and someone came up to him and said, "You can't do that. You're not a Sandan. You're just a Shodan. You can't promote other people." And this is the guy who started a judo program, the only legit judo program in like 100-mile radius in the city. And he's building this successful program, opened up multiple locations and worked with schools to start after school programs. And he's telling him you can't promote a Shodan because you're a Shodan. So he forced this guy who's in his 40s, 50s, multiple injuries to compete at a tournament and win a couple of matches so that they can give him a promotion in like 6 months, another promotion in another 6 months, so that he could promote Shodan. So like this is what I'm saying. Like it's this roundaboutness that's like bottlenecking all this stuff.
That's a problem, man. Like that should not be happening. Somebody that's given to the community of USA Judo or of judo, just judo for so long, right? Like building a program, having a legitimate dojo, teaching judo, the principles of judo, the techniques of judo, right? Like all of those things are effort into grow the sport and the art of judo, right? All of that should be taken into consideration because not everybody is a competitor. There's technical specialists. There's people that are just really good judoka that just don't want to compete. I can tell you easily there are a couple judoka out there that don't compete, but they are phenomenal judoka, right? Like
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Oh, Anthony, yes.
And that shouldn't be discounted or penalized because you don't want to compete. Not everybody wants to compete. Like that's okay if you don't want to compete, but you're still in judo, still promoting it. I think the answer is a point system. I'm glad you've brought that to me. Is there any other thing that I'm not asking that you want to share about that?
I think that's mostly it. Like, I think it's really hindering the growth. And then the athletes are gonna be like, I'm just gonna use the word gatekeeping because they're like, well, you need to defend your black belt and you have to be able to compete to defend your black belt. Like that, some people feel like that's how it should be. And I mean, it might be a differing opinion, but I think that's one thing that USJA did well is they really left the promotion up to Sandan. Debatable to Sandan. I think Shodan Nidan is good enough, but they left it up to the coaches, and it still has to be verified, right? It's not just the coaches like sign away. Like they still verify the time and grade, some of the points, and you have to fill out the paperwork.
And I'm total agreement with that. Though, like I did not care about promotions like at all until I started looking at running my own dojo, right? Or well, not my own dojo, my little piece of program, right? If I have a brown belt that wants to go compete, like I should be able to go do that. But eventually I want to promote somebody to black belt. Like I want that. I want to be able to share that moment and that's a huge accomplishment. Like that is massive. And to say like, okay, hey, I have to be a third degree or higher. Like I see the logic behind it, but the implementation is not doing so well. It sounds like. So yeah. I appreciate you sharing that feedback for me, and I'll definitely take that and write it down and as a note for my discussions.
Yeah. And the other thing, like I said, if sport80.com just allows me to search up whether someone's actually a black belt or not, then that's should be doable because the data is already there.
Yeah, I
don't know if you've used USJA's system. That's built.
I have not.
So I'm able to literally look up everyone's rank on USJA. So
so is it just like a name search, and you say I want to look up Matthew Parker and see what his rank is, and it could be an orange belt, and it'll say okay.
Well, it's no one really registers their lower rank because you have to pay for it, right? But show so it's not accurate. But I can literally see in our dojo how many people are in our dojo, what rank they are, what rank they're registered as. We have to, because we require an NGB membership, and I have to keep track of that in our computer system. I feel like I should be able to look up USA Judo, look at our club, and see how many people are registered in our club. And also, like we have a Shodan in our club that I don't think he actually registered his Shodan.
Mhm.
So now he's asking for his Nidan, and I'm trying to look for it. And I don't see it on any of the NGB websites, and I can't tell if it's just me, not or whether USA Judo forgot to update their website. Because
I think USA Judo website is flawed. So
Yeah.
I would my only suggestion for that very specific individual is to look at their verification status on Sport 80.
Yeah, but you know, some people are going to be like, I paid for it, I registered for it, but like, you know, certain of the individuals don't. But that's an edge case, but I feel like it's a feature that should be available.
Yeah, I think that's fair feedback. I can take it back to USA Judo and provide that feedback, both the black belt system in general, and then also the verification system for Sport 80. I can take that back.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not going to say again, not going to name names, but I've seen some like fake judo clubs out there, and
McDojos.
Yeah.
And some McDojos, some just
I mean,
black belts.
Some are very obvious, like they're wearing a red belt, and they call themselves Grandmaster. But yeah, so some of them
Grandmaster Shensu Kai G.
Some of them are very obvious, but others are very like it's harder to prove, so versus. And it's like their word against yours, and especially with AI nowadays, like it's so easy to fake a certificate.
It's interesting because BJJ used to be able to say like, oh, if you're a black belt, I can make a phone call and see if you're a legit black belt, right?
Yeah.
And now they're getting BJJ's boomed in popularity. That's really like some places can still do that, but it depends.
Well, that's why they have belt checker now.
Yeah,
which is they basically what do you call it? Crowdsource the verification process to people. Like if you have multiple legitimate black belts verifying you, it's like a network effect.
It's almost like a blockchain effect.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I actually used to train with a guy. His name is Kyle Baker. He actually built a belt checker for judo, but it didn't. People are like, why do we need this in judo? So didn't really take off. But if you want to hit him up, if Sport 80 doesn't or Smooth Cop doesn't work out, then I'm sure he'd be happy to let you guys use his stuff. So
yeah, so I'm gonna take this back and I'll provide that feedback and see what answer I get, and I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is going to be. Maybe that's something they've looked into. Maybe they haven't even thought about it. But I will take that to USA Judo.
Yeah, I really need to verify Matt Parker and Nick DiPapolo whether they're legitimate black belts, So
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting topic because people can. Like there was a comedian I was listening to one time. He was like, "Did you know you could just buy a black belt? Like go on Amazon and buy a black belt. Like no one's going to stop you." And so he was making a joke about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of in the same vein of anything that's more serious. Like if they're running a gym or if they're running a dojo, if they're running a competition, like you could really do some damage, not only to locally, but to the brand and to what judo is about. Because if I see somebody that's wearing a red belt and they're saying they're a grandmaster, and I'm like, no, like you're not a 9th degree or 10th degree black belt. Like that's not accurate, bro.
Not in the US, you're not.
So
definitely.
This really, I promise, is the last thing for me. This really ties into the two things that I mentioned last. Because for the promotion, they asked a lot, not for me, but when I was putting the paperwork through for a couple of our sandans for their Jodan and a couple of nidans for their sandans, they were asking like, you gotta put down who you fought, what rank they were, because it makes a difference. As a sandan, if you beat a shodan, you get 0.1 point on out of the 5 or 10 points you need. So you need to beat was like 50 shodans. If you need to beat 50 shodans to get your sandan, basically, or your 4th dan. if you need that 5-point time and grade reduction, right? But who the hell have you seen actually ask people, hey, what Dan rank are you? No one ever does that.
Yeah.
So if you have some sort of system to track this, like that's something I can work with where I can actually look it up and do the math, or USA Judo can just have a computer system automatically tally up the total. But I'm just saying it's like impossible to track, hey, last 8 years, name every single match, every single opponent you fought in every single tournament and what rank they were.
Back when I was a brown belt, I used to do that, okay?
You don't need that many points as a brown belt.
Hey,
no, but I'm saying back when I was brown, I used to do that. I'd get that little booklet out, write down who I beat. I'd be like, try to figure out what their belt rank is, or ask them, hey man, what rank are you? What Q are you, man?
So we can talk about analytics now, right? Because that's yeah.
So,
I think that's fair feedback. I think if you're requiring, if like your criteria of USA Judo is to say, hey, what's the rank of people you're beating? Well, they need to provide some way of verifying that or providing that information. Though it shouldn't be that way. Does your state, California, right, is where you guys are? Yeah. Does California have any requirements?
For you mean just the state organization? I think we're at large. I don't think we have a state organization because we're mostly USJF dominated here.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. So Colorado Judo League has their own set of criteria on top of USA Judo's. So I was just curious, like what if any you had?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of ridiculous. I think that's a thing because it seems like whoever wrote the requirements, I'm sure it's Pat Burris, wrote this for like the top 10 ranking national athletes, so where they all know each other already, and they're like, I beat this guy at this tournament, and it's like everyone else that was a showdown is like an afterthought. You know, it seems like that way.
Yeah, I'll take that feedback. I think that's very valid feedback. Like it's not something I've thought about because I was a competitor, but I know that USA Judo is more than just competition. So I think that's extremely valid.
That's what they keep saying, but I'm just saying, like,
oh man, Anthony,
that's what they keep saying. But yeah, just putting it out there, I'm cheaper than Keith Bryant. All right, so yeah. All right. Well, Juan, do you have anything? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, do you guys have any other questions?
Well, it's gonna be kind of a question and an outro. So I just want to say thank you for coming on the show and stuff. Will we be seeing you at the World Veterans Championships in Las Vegas?
So specifically, look, I was talking to my wife about this World Championships. I'm looking up the dates exactly. Las Vegas. The dates was November 4th to the 11th. So in October, I'm actually going to Korea and Japan. In the beginning, and then at the end of October, my wife and I are taking a little vacation as well. I have to convince her to let me go to
take her to Vegas
because I will be gone like all of October, and she's, like I said, she's in law school.
Oh no!
And so yeah, it's like I'm getting a favor done here by allowing me to go to Korea and Japan and. A boys' trip, basically. It's one of my buddies is getting married, and he's marrying a Korean national, and so they're doing the wedding in Korea. And she was like, "You should go, but know that I have my own life, and I'm very, very busy in law school." And so I am talking to her. We're in discussion if I'm going to be able to go or not. I absolutely want to go, but again, my number one priority is my wife. So I got to make sure that she's good before I can commit to it.
Okay. Right. So I was going to say, if you were there, any of our members, anybody that's watching our show, hey, come and talk to him. If you have any questions as senior guys, this is the guy to talk to right here.
On your podcast, I'm happy to share like my email, my Instagram, like those are the two easiest
that's the next
ways.
Thing.
Yeah, those are the two easiest ways to get to me. I'm happy to answer, and if you want a phone call, just let me know. I'm like, I'll hop on a phone call with you. Like I talk to people.
I won't put the phone number on YouTube because scrapers will get it, and then
don't do
all
that.
that kind of stuff.
Don't do
so.
that.
Yeah. I
Right.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll throw my Instagram and my
So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you then?
I honestly, I would say Instagram. I usually check it like once a day, and if I have a message, I try to respond to it.
Mhm.
Most of them are memes, right? It was just buddies sending memes to each other. But there's a handful of people that have reached out that way, and I've had conversations with them because of it. So I think that's the easiest way. Email is another great way for to get a hold of me. So
is it the email that you gave me for the?
Yes, it is. Yes,
okay.
it is.
So I'll put that in the description.
Yeah. You can just do that. My Instagram is Matthew Cray USA, so CRAY USA. Cray is actually my middle name. Some people are like, "Are you just crazy?" No,
I'm Cray Cray.
no, that's my actual. Fun fact: it's a Cray supercomputers. My dad was a big nerd, so he named me Matthew Cray. Yeah. So anyway,
That had been a conversation with your mom, I bet.
yeah. My mom was like, I guess it sounds okay. My mom picked my first name. He picked my middle.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to promote or put out there while we're talking?
Honestly, I want to promote the body of USA Judo. So first and foremost, Judo is hard, right? Like the things that we teach, the things that we implement, the things that we do on the mat, like that's hard, and that takes dedication and skill and time and effort, right? And so everybody that does it, like they should be proud of themselves for stepping on the mat and progressing, right? Because the things that we do it's freaking hard, right? It's like picking up any other sport or any other hobby or any other thing that somebody cares about. But judo is so unique to the United States because it's so small. So it's hard. We don't have the same resources. Like I can't just call up a random person in a different state and say, hey, you want to, can I come do XYZ? Sometimes there's not even a judo club in the area, right? If I'm traveling around the US. So if you were in judo, I want to give a shout out to you because like, that's not like me being political. Like it is hard. Judo is hard. And I think within the United States, it's limited resources. And so you do it because you care and you enjoy it. So that's the biggest thing. I don't have, an end motive of like, hey, follow me or whatever. Like if you want to, great. I love that. I want to be engaged with the community for the community's sake. So shout out to my coaches, shout out to my training partners, shout out to you guys. I appreciate it. So yeah, I love the community and I love when it interacts with each other. So I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the show. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Wait, we have one more question.
Oh, you got more question?
The question we ask every the question we ask every interview.
Oh, that question.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I got it. You got me scared there for a second. All right. You're at the Olympics. All right. You're going for the gold. There's lights, cameras, action. You're at the UFC at the Sphere. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What song are you coming out to for your entrance?
Honestly, I would probably pick a Big Booty Mix by Two Brothers.
That's one way to psych out your opponent right there.
It's not like so they're called Big Booty Mixes, but they're music from when we grew up, and it's a mashup, and it's just fun. It's energetic. It gets the people going, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of energy I would like to walk out to, like just getting out there, get in my groove, get the crowd into the atmosphere. Like that's what I would want. So I would probably say that. Like it's a dumb answer, but
that's great. That's a great answer.
I think
no dumb answers. All right, they're all great.
What's your favorite answer that you've heard? Like before? I'm sure you've gotten some great answers.
For me, it was Blur. I forgot who said that, but Blur, like the one you hear in all the soccer matches and stuff.
I think that was Rossi Rascal. I think said that one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good song. Because it's funny, he's a British pro wrestler and judo player, and like when I think of judo, think of British fighters, I always think of that song too. I always think of that.
But the bodies hit the floor. That's classic.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that's classic.
But I listened to that so much in my Counter-Strike days when I was playing Counter-Strike back in the day. That used to be like everyone put that song everywhere in every single highlight video. So I got kind of sick of that song, even though it's so perfect for judo. You know,
it's the classic judo song. Classical.
Yeah.
X Gonna Give It To You by DMX. That'd be a good one too.
That's a good one too.
That'd be a good one too. What about you guys? What would your workout songs be?
Mine would be the Pokemon theme song. Sorry, it's opening.
Ooh, let's go. Yeah. I wanna be the very best.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny. Back in a past life, well, it's funny. So back in a past life, I used to be a pro wrestler, and when I came out, my pro wrestling song was by a British band called Scooter, and the song Fire. I love that song. That's a very hype song. People don't know it. Like if you look it up, you know how hype it is.
So Scooter is
the band's named Scooter, and their song is named Fire.
All right, I'm looking it up.
And then when I had my MMA fights, I would always come out to AC/DC usually.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Your pro wrestling, like that's a very unique background. Like, I bet you have some cool stories from that.
I have some interesting stories. How about cool ones? Very interesting.
Next time we chat, I'd love to hear them.
Okay, no problem. Next time.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate your time. Yeah. And again, make sure you guys vote. It's important. If you are a 10-year athlete, you have until September 27th. If you are a coach, have a coaching certification, September 27th to register. I can send that to you if you want the links for that specifically.
So real quick, I'm a coach, so I know I have to pick one category. So
well, you're no athlete, so you're
no. So actually, maybe this is a good clarification point. Athletes can only vote for athletes. Coaches can only vote for coaches. Everybody, whether you're an athlete, a coach, everybody is not limited to make an at-large.
So I can vote for both the coach and the
at-large.
Yep. Right. Got it.
So you'll be able to vote in the coach. You'll be able to vote in the coach. I'm shorter now. You'll be able to vote in the coach one and also the at-large.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Hey, y'all have a great rest of your day. Okay.
What a great interview that was.
That was another long interview. Like,
it was huge, man.
Man, I was so scared of some of the things I asked, but I feel like I had to ask because it's not a very often chance where we get like such a candid person from that's involved in USA Judo that gives us all this information where they're not complaining about just lack of money. You know what I'm saying? He did say lack of money was a problem, but he's not like saying we just need more money for the athletes. Like,
it was more just honesty about like what the programs are going on, what they're doing with the money, how it's being spent, how it's being allocated, who's doing this, who's doing that. It was very honest, open. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I feel like I had to ask those questions in order to get the transparency I was looking for, because I understand a lot more. I thought I tried to understand how it worked, and I just couldn't, just from reading the USA Judo's website and the emails. But thankfully, this answered a lot of questions, and it really gave me a new perspective, because I thought it was just all, or like he said, an Olympic IOC requirement, and it's all just talk and show, and it's just like, here's some make believe positions to satisfy the requirements. That's why I thought it was going to be going in, and coming out, it's still, I think it's still kind of true, but there's a little bit more nuance into it, and it does affect the direction of judo a little bit, which is intriguing. So the sad part is, I think anyone who's a USA Judo member should vote, based off of what we said, like it definitely will affect you, not in the short term, but in the long term. But getting Americans to vote based off of long term return on investments is going to be really hard. It's not in our culture. Just look at the stock market and decisions CEOs make, right? And just elections in general. So it was funny because at one point I was saying it's election season and he thought I was talking about USA Judo, but I was actually talking about the US
It's funny how that
elections.
worked out. But no, but it's funny how that worked out because I know what you meant. Then he started talking like, oh, it really did work out that way, did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a great interview, I thought. Very open, asked a bunch of questions, got some answers, and I was very happy with it. So
yeah. Please, if you guys got this far, I know a lot of people don't listen to the end, but if you got this far, really, if you're a USA Judo member, take the time, research. You don't have to vote for Matthew, right? But take the time to research the candidates and vote, right? If you care about judo. Doesn't take that much time. Also vote in general in the US elections if you're a citizen and you're eligible to vote. But I'm not going to say I endorse Matthew, but I think I'm going to actually take the time and vote for him. That's who I'm going to be voting for. So I guess that's kind of an endorsement.
That is an endorsement.
The way I see it is I'm sorry, Matthew. I don't expect much to happen. Just you, one person, and an organization against a lot of vested interest.
Well, I think that's why you and me need to join.
Yeah, I don't think much. I don't expect much out of you, but just in case.
That's a great endorsement, Anthony.
Just in case you get something done. I know it's going to be an uphill battle, but I like everything he said he was going to do. So I'm going to do my part. So
all right. So please, if you haven't already, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can follow me at @the_1 at Tatami Talk. At Tatami Talk on Instagram. You follow Anthony on Instagram at Anthony Throws. If you have any questions, things you want to go over, things you want to talk about, hey, if you want to come on the show and let us know, you can hit us up at TatomiTalk@gmail.com. Anthony, is there anything I'm forgetting? Oh, and Threads too. Threads. Is that it?
Threads? Wait, we're on Threads?
We are on Threads.
I'm about to buckle and just sign up for Threads. Just saying, I'm considering it.
It's a waste. It's a waste, dude. It's a waste.
It's okay. I'll try. I'll decide. So.
All right. So Anthony, is there anything else you want to talk about, or
no?
Put out
yeah, that's it.
All right. Let Anthony, if you want to do the Substack still, because we got a few messages, but
yeah, I'm going to do it. I already got a lot of positive responses, but I'm just so tired. Like I literally took an hour nap before this interview, but it's coming. I just need to. Lots of stuff going on. So, yeah.
And with that, please don't forget to
register to vote
for USA Judo and the US Electoral.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And slap the mat.